Hi, my name is Rachel Fogg. I'm the Director of Marketing and Public Relations here at Emory Henry University. Also, I am class of 2012, and I am joined here today by the 23rd president of Emory Henry, Dr. Lou Fincher, who also happens to be the first president of Emory Henry University. Thank you so much for joining me today for our fireside chat.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
This is pretty exciting.
It is, yeah. So I just want to start out by acknowledging that Emory Henry has gone through a significant period of transition lately. Can you tell me a little bit about where the university stands today?
Sure. And actually, I would say all of higher education is going through a big disruption transition right now. And Emory Henry University is certainly not immune to that. To me, I see where we sit is a very pivotal point in the history of the institution. And we've had many throughout our almost 200 years. But this really is an opportunity for us to not only remain firm to our traditions and our roots and the things that have made us such a strong institution and a strong provider of quality education, but at the same time be able to evolve to the changing landscape in higher ed, to the stresses that we now face economically, politically, demographically. And so really are poised for really being able to evolve. And that to me, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Can you tell me what has guided your approach to leadership during this time?
That's a very good question. And so, as you mentioned, we've gone through a high level of transition. Um, Transitions and change are hard, they're difficult, particularly when they're forced upon you. They can be stressful. Some people respond to stress and change more easily than others. And so, really, it has been with a focus on trying to build trust, being sure that we had a culture of trust and that foundation of being able to communicate. Certainly, I am not perfect in that area and still have room for improvement in terms of strengthening not only the frequency of communication but just the messaging. But to me, it's been very critical to make sure that communicating with all constituents, not just our campus community, our faculty and staff, our students, but our alumni, our donors, even our strategic partners. And it really is about being consistent. And what we share with our board of trustees can be the same message that we share with our faculty and staff, which in turn has been the same message we've shared with our alumni. And it really is that consistency, I think, that helps to build the trust, but also helps people see their place in being part of our team in terms of moving the institution forward.
So, as you mentioned, higher ed is facing a lot of challenges across the country right now. What do you see as the unique opportunities and obstacles facing institutions like ours?
I really do like the way you frame that question because I do view challenges as opportunities for us. There are so many things that we will be responding to, have responded to, that are only going to make us be a stronger institution as we move forward. You know, Across higher education, we're seeing institutions that are facing decreased a sense of return on investment or skepticism in the value of a higher education degree. We're seeing changes in enrollment coming from our demographic cliff, which we've been anticipating and is certainly here now that we are in the 2025. But even the way we approach our teaching and learning are being impacted by artificial intelligence. And so it really is an opportunity to reimagine what we do, how we do it. But that doesn't mean depart from who we are as an institution. So, who we are within our mission and our core values. But it does allow us to evolve, as I mentioned earlier, to think about how do we best meet the needs of our students? How do we best meet the needs of the workforce in our communities? And how do we be strong partners for our region? And how do we strengthen our community partnerships? And so all of those are opportunities for us, while they also pose challenges and ways that we need to rethink our operations.
So let's transition a little bit and talk about our recent probation status. Can you tell me a little bit about our progress on that right now, where we are in the process, and maybe what we've even learned from it?
Sure. So I think everyone knows that back in June of 2025, we were placed on probation for good cause by our regional accreditor, SACS COC. And I do want to clarify because there has been confusion at times. We are fully accredited and remain fully accredited with SACS. The decision to place us on probation was based upon a recent review that was completed in June. So there are about 70 plus standards that all institutions that are accredited by SAC-COC are expected to show compliance in. We were found to be compliant in all but one. And that one standard, 10.3, has to do with financial responsibility. And what that means from the perspective of the SAC-COC is they want to see that we are behaving in a responsible way, i.e., balancing our budget on an annual basis. And so for us, going into the review in June, we had multiple years of deficits. And so what SACS looks at is they really look backwards to see, do we have those multiple years of being balanced? And so when they looked at, and they looked at 2 years, and so when they looked at fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, um, actually, when they looked at fiscal year 23, which is 22-23 year, and fiscal year 24, which is the 23-24 year, we had large deficits in both of those years. And so for them to look at compliance or non-compliance, they found that we weren't compliant in having 2 years of balanced budget. And so that is what led to the probation decision. The essential or distinction is that they said probation for good cause. And what that means from SACS is that they see that we are making progress towards having a balanced budget and being a stronger institution financially. And so it's very important to not only mention that, but to have everyone recognize we are making that progress. We will be reviewed again this June. I can say, and I'm very proud and pleased to report that the fiscal year that ended in June 30th, 25, we did balance the budget with a small surplus of a little over 96,000. That's an important first step. We are expecting to be balanced this fiscal year, which is the expectation from SACS. The important thing to understand, though, as SACS reviews us this June, they will again look back at 2 years. Now they'll look back at fiscal year 24, that 23-24 year where we had a deficit. They'll now look back at fiscal year 25, which we now will have an audit to show that we really were balanced. We said we were going to be balanced. We've demonstrated we now are balanced. So really they'll be looking at 1 year unbalanced, 1 year balanced. Because they are looking at that pattern of 2 years, I do anticipate that SACS will leave us on probation for one more year. And the reason is to look for those 2 years of a consistency in being a balanced budget. But I would reiterate, we were balanced in fiscal year 25. We anticipate being balanced in fiscal year 26. And so, again, we are on the right path. And the things that we're doing to create those changes are going to be strengths for us and really sustainability foundation for us as we move forward into the future.
Right. And I think that leads into my next question, which is how you feel like this is strengthening us for the future.
I think it's difficult. There are so many headwinds in higher ed, and we're facing increased costs. I mentioned earlier decreasing enrollment. Well, that means decreasing revenue. And so when you see costs go up, revenue come down, that creates financial challenges for all higher education institutions, large, small, public, private, but especially for small private institutions. And so for us, being in this position now really has forced us to create the discipline that we really should have been operating under all along. And so the discipline and the changing our business model, changing how we allocate resources, rethinking even in terms of how we generate new and innovative revenue streams. All of those things contribute to an overall plan for financial sustainability. And so it's really developing new habits and then living those habits.
Right. Great. So, what are we doing right now to also strengthen us for not only the future, but to remain relevant?
That's a very good question. And so we, as a small private institution, almost 200 years old, we have a lot of traditions, a rich history of transforming the lives of our students, of making significant uh, contributions to the communities that we serve. Those things we do not want to step away from, but our students are different. The workforce demands are different. What we see in the integration of artificial intelligence, how we operate more efficiently, all of those things require that we evolve. It really is like having the ground shift beneath our feet. And so we have to be able to accommodate that, make adjustments, make course corrections when we need to. And some of those course corrections are looking at our academic programs and ensuring not only do they meet student interests, but they meet career workforce pathways for our students. Our students and their parents no longer want to just have their students earn a degree. They really need to have a way to have a career path, a way in which to um, have a financial security, be able to raise a family, see future success. And all of those things we've begun evolving with our career center, with our student success center, and all of those things make sure that we're not only keeping a curriculum that's relevant, but keeping the wraparound services that our students need for success, and not only success here, but success into their future careers. And for us to still be that resource for them even after they leave us. In fact, our career center even works with our alumni in terms of being a resource for career preparation, resume development, those types of things. And so, if we aren't always reevaluating our programs, and that means academic as well as athletic, you we really can become very status quo or stagnant. And we just can't afford to do that. And so, really, we have entered a new era where there's going to be constant assessment of, are we relevant? Are we meeting our students' needs? If we aren't, how do we adjust? How do we make sure that we provide the product that our students need and also the future employers need? And that just requires continuous assessment and improvement.
All right. Great. So, the tuition reduction was a big moment for us last year. Can you tell me a little bit more about that decision and what message you hope it sends to future students and families?
That decision had actually been sort of underway for a number of years. For us, in making that decision now, it really is about recognizing, you know, we talked about being relevant. We have to also be able to compete with our peer institutions. We actually have a lot of cross apps. Students apply at a lot of our peer institutions that are public institutions. Just up the road in Radford, UVA-wise, across the state line at ETSU. So we have as many cross apps in our public peers as we do in our private peers. And we need to be able to compete at that price point. And really, for us, what's confusing with private education is you have this large sticker price. Ours had grown to be 39.9, but no one paid that price. Everyone coming in received a pretty high merit scholarship right off the bat. And that can be confusing, particularly for our first gen parents and families that don't understand that maybe there's a sticker price, but then there is a starting point where we really start to look at where students actually pay tuition. And so really it's taking away that mystery. And so by lowering our actual sticker price, we know that we can be able to help families see that an Emory Henry education is within reach and much more affordable than what may have appeared to be by the sticker price on our website. So to be able to see a starting price of 19,990, um, below 20,000 when before we were pushing up against 40,000, we just feel like that's a much more clear indication of what the price of an education at Emory Henry is. We still will be offering very generous scholarships for our students, both our students with high academics records as well as our students with great need. And so we will still be reducing that price somewhat, but not like that high sticker price that was so confusing. And it actually puts us in a more competitive position with our public peers because our price point is not that far off from those institutions' tuition costs.
Right. And how do you see the tuition reduction influencing access for years in the future?
To me, our reducing our tuition to a more realistic price point is all about access. We really want to be the point of access for students in our region, in our backyard here in Southwest Virginia. And again, I think a lot of families were not looking at Emory and Henry because of that high sticker price. Um, and that's very, very sad when I know the transformational experience that we provide our students. And so, if we can help communicate the value and the affordability of our education, then we can be able to help families look at, yes, Emory and Henry is within their reach. And they need to come on campus and be able to talk to us about the opportunities that we provide our students.
So we changed our name.
We do.
We were Emory Henry College, and then we transitioned to Emory Henry University, which of course was a big moment for us. What does that change mean to you?
So, and to me, and some say it's a name change, some say it's a status change. I view it as a status change. And the exciting thing for me is our first day as Emory and Henry University, which was August 1st, 2024, was actually my first day as the president of Emory and Henry University. So to me, there was a lot of sort of symbolism there. To me, I've always seen our change or transition to the university status as the next natural step for Emory and Henry. We have evolved, even since I came in 2014, we have evolved to be much like an institution that really is judged on the standards of being a university. We've had multiple campuses. We have our School of Health Sciences campus in Marion. We have our equestrian campus in Bristol. Of course, our historic traditional campus in Emory. We have evolved to have graduate programs, including doctoral programs. We've moved into the online space. We've moved into Division II athletics. All of those things really speak about an institution that is much more than a small, traditional liberal arts residential only college. And so to me, that's what Emory and Henry University really demonstrates is that we are a different institution. We have evolved while also maintaining our roots and those traditional values that are so important to us. But it really speaks to who we have become as an institution.
Right. So, how do you balance honoring our history while preparing for the future?
It's a very good question. And, it's one that we are very, very serious about doing. Um, because again, we're approaching our 200th anniversary. We have great historical traditions in this region. We are the oldest institution of higher education in Southwest Virginia. We have been leading and serving this community since 1836 when we were founded. And so you can't step away from those roots, but we can't not evolve or we won't survive. And so the key thing is for us to be able to look at how we can best serve our students, serve our communities, continue to evolve as the landscape of higher education evolves, as workforce needs evolve. Our students have changed. Even coming out of the pandemic, we've seen a difference in our students, in their welcomeness of online learning, their interests in being back on campus and being engaged. We also see some increased need in terms of student success services. All of those things require that we be nimble and that we be able to, again, the shifting ground underneath our feet, that we can continue to be innovative and evolve as the world around us evolves. And so, one of the key ways we stay in tune with our historic roots, though, is really staying connected with our alumni. One of the greatest things that I do is go out and be able to meet our alumni in their space, be able to go to receptions, and be able to meet groups of alumni, hear what their concerns are, hear what their memories are. Invariably, they all have strong memories from their experience here on campus. They all have strong memories of specific faculty members, particular staff members that impacted their lives. Those are things that we don't want to lose, but we also want our alumni to know that we are evolving and changing. The experience that our current students have will be a little different than the alumni may have had 30, 40, 50 years ago. But at our core mission, our core values, and the transformational education that we provide, we aren't different. But it really is a matter of maintaining that connection. Um, and so that's why I see my role as being very important, to being out in the community and out in the region, and answering the questions and concerns. And I try to dispel myths. Sometimes there are myths of what might be happening on campus, um, rumor mills of things that might be happening on campus, and I enjoy having the opportunity to talk with our alumni and our community friends, and really tell the real story in terms of what we're doing.
So we've seen several programmatic updates on campus over the last year. So that includes the new academic programs to a new vision for the Appalachian Center. Can you tell me a little bit more about those changes and how you think those changes might actually be strengthening Emory Henry?
Sure, and I'm excited about the changes that we're making. For most institutions, when you look at the news, a lot of institutions with the headwinds of declining enrollment and increasing costs, they're just really making drastic cuts to academic programs, particularly those in the liberal arts. And for us, we've really been able to find an innovative way to really be able to create synergy and interdisciplinary opportunities for our students, um, that instead of being in silos of individual academic degrees, having students have the opportunity to have concentrations. So, for example, within social sciences, to be able to have a concentration within political science or within history, which really can bring a very well rounded and really strengthened experience for our students. That also then bleeds over into what we've done with the Appalachian Center. The Appalachian Center and what it brings to our students is so critical um, to the Emory and Henry value. But it is so important in terms of that sense of service, that sense of being engaged, and all of the things that came within our civic innovation major. And so what we really have done is, instead of having an isolated major of civic innovation, really integrated that content and those principles throughout our academic programs, um, so that all students gain that value that is known to come from the experiences, academic, experiential, that come from the rich experience within the Appalachian Center, but it's available for all students, and in fact intentional in terms of how all students are exposed to that. And I would say it really also is the same way with our career center. Is, as opposed to being a standalone career center, it really is being integrated into the academic preparation of our students. And so, not something that students would visit when they're seniors, but something that students are a part of from their beginnings at Emory and Henry, in terms of thinking about and exploring career opportunities, looking at ways in which to be engaged in the community that our Appalachian Center has always done so richly. And so it really is about finding ways to integrate and be interdisciplinary and collaborative. Um, that really makes for a better and more well-rounded education for our students. And it's so key to the experience our students have. And I think it's a unique value add that Emory and Henry provides for our students.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. So to change topics just a little bit, what are you hearing most from alumni right now?
It's so nice to get out and speak to alumni. So a lot of it is helping to explain. So I do when I visit different cities. It really is about communicating, telling what's happening on the campus, answering questions, concerns, as I mentioned earlier, myths that might be out there, and also helping them understand how change is making us stronger, but not departing from our rich traditions. And so I often hear from some a common thing is we miss the ODAC and wish we were still in the ODAC because there was such a rich tradition of those schools that we played. Um, some concerns that has our move to Vision 2, has that contributed to our financial, situation? And what I've been able to do is be able to help our alumni understand, no, that's not the case at all. And in fact, our move to D2 was very strategic. Um, in our travels throughout the ODAC, we spent a lot of time on the road. Our students missed a lot of class, and we had become less competitive in that conference. By moving to D2, not only did we reinvigorate some uh, rivalries, for example, with UDAYs that we used to have traditionally, but we also have changed our footprint for recruiting. We now are able to recruit many more students from Northern Virginia than we were before, as well as from surrounding states, North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. We also are becoming very competitive in D2. Our men's soccer and men's football are two examples of that. We also have moved into increased number of international students that particularly look at Division two sports as opportunities. And so we've decreased our travel expenses. We've begun to increase our competitiveness. We're seeing a wider footprint of recruitment. Um, and the student athlete that we're getting is a little bit different composition, but one I think that fits well. Now, not all students are a fit for Emory and Henry. They have to be students that want to be strong students, that want to be engaged in our rich traditions, but at the same time be able to compete in their sport. We have about 70% students on our campus, undergraduate students, that are involved in one sport or another, including equestrian. Not all of those are scholarship athletes. And so when we did move to D2, we did move to a scholarshiping model. I would say only about 50% of our students are what we would say are scholarship student athletes. But the sports environment is still an affinity for students when they choose Emory and Henry, which it was when we were a D3 school in the ODAC. So it's been a good move for us, one that we are seeing success from, and I think one that was a good decision years ago.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned international students a moment ago. Can you tell me a little bit about the international student population on campus?
We have more than doubled our international population. We've always had a strong international presence, and particularly um, sending students abroad. We now are seeing an increase in students coming to us from abroad. A lot of that is tied directly to our new soccer coach in our men's soccer program. He is one that has long had a history of recruiting strongly from international countries. And so we see, I think we have about 70 something students here, both student athletes and non-athletes. But it's a rich, sort of melting pot of languages, experiences. The students have really become embraced, by their peers here on campus, but they're also becoming leaders on campus as well, and it's unique to sit in the stands at a soccer game and hear multiple languages spoken, and just the energy and excitement, that brings, and so we're gonna always be of and from Southwest Virginia, but it is a really unique new flavor now that we have in terms of, the increased, international presence that we have.
Yeah. I think it's also wonderful that we get to bring these international students to experience Southwest Virginia and
Absolutely.
everything this region has to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think alumni can do to help support our campus and students right now?
Our alumni are needed now more than ever. It really is about giving back, and to me, giving back means that you really make a meaningful difference to whether it's an organization, a group that made a difference in your lives. And I've always been very much in favor of giving back. I've always given back to my institutions, to my profession. And right now in higher ed, more than ever, Emory Henry needs its alumni. We need to be able to know that we have your support for our new initiatives. We want to engage you in ways that you can contribute to the success of Emory Henry, and sometimes that can mean very many different things, from hosting students in an internship to networking us and helping us identify new internship opportunities, providing mentoring opportunities for our students. But it also means financially supporting the institution as well. Um, no matter the size of the gift, the cost of a cup of coffee these days at Starbucks, whatever suits someone's budget helps the institution and it gives back. It really is paying forward because all of our students receive some sort of financial aid. And so it really is paying that forward and being able to provide the same opportunity for our students in the future that our alumni received when they were here as students. And so now more than ever, we need the support of our alumni.
What does giving back mean to you personally?
You know, uh, as I mentioned earlier, to me, I always have done this both personally and professionally, um, to give to make a meaningful difference in whether it's my profession, my institution, because I received value from that institution or that profession. And so it really is about, I pride myself on being a servant leader. My goal is that we produce servant leaders, and that really means being servant first. And how can you serve those that you are in a position to lead? How do we serve our students? How do we serve our communities? But that means also giving back, whether it be in the work that we do in the communities, whether it means the work that we do with our strategic partners, but also the work that we do and always looking at how do we make the experience for our students better today and tomorrow than it was last year or 10, 20 years from now. It really is. It's our task to make sure that we are continuing the legacy of Emory and Henry to create a transformational effect on the lives of our students.
I've heard you mention throughout our conversation strategic partnerships. And I know that back in the fall, we introduced a new role on campus. Can you tell us a little bit about that role?
Yes, and so it's very important, and again, I would say for all higher ed, not just Emory and Henry, but certainly for Emory and Henry, our strategic plan has really had a focus on strengthening our strategic partnerships. We cannot expect to be successful working alone in silos, and we have always been a strong partner and had strong partners. But it really is we are at a pivotal point in the life of higher ed that we really need to expand our reach, expand our ability to partner with others. And so I created a new position, a cabinet level position, in August, the vice president for strategic partnerships and innovation. Both of those things are very important to me. Strategic partnerships, in that we must be able to work with others, and innovation, in that we must be willing to think differently, how we operate differently, so that we can continue to evolve. And we were very fortunate to hire an alum, Dr. Dennis Carter, um, who was retiring as a superintendent from the Smith County Schools. He himself had been a very strong partner for Emory and Henry. He and I had worked very closely in a very successful partnership that became our lab school, our Healthcare Excellence Academy Lab School, which is just one example of being able to bring strategic partners from across multiple sectors that together we're able to accomplish much more than we can alone. And refer to it as 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. And it's those strategic partnerships that are really going to be the important part of our success in the future, whether it be finding new ways to create revenue sources, finding new ways to create new academic programs, new student pipelines, whether it's finding new ways to create experiential opportunities for our students. We value our partners. We want to expand our level of partnerships. And really, at the senior level, I would say we have become a very strategic, innovative, and collaborative group. And that very much is what's needed right now in leading Emory and Henry into the future.
Yeah. So your background is in healthcare,
Mhm.
and I heard you refer to building a stronger, healthier version of Emory Henry for the future. Can you tell me, what does that look like to you?
Again, my background is healthcare education. A lot of that has also focused on prevention as a part of healthcare, but also making sure that you do things that lead to a healthy future. And for us, that means making sure that we are in a position financially to be strong well into the future, that we remain relevant. We've talked about relevance a couple of times, that we remain very relevant, which provides the best opportunity for our students, that we can be good stewards of the resources of Emory and Henry, good partners to the region. A healthier community really makes for a stronger, more successful community. And so Emory and Henry being healthier and stronger makes for a stronger Southwest Virginia. And that really is what we're all about, is serving this region and serving our students. And so it really is about looking at how do we have the discipline to make the right decisions, to do the right things, and to continue to position Emory and Henry for not just today, but a very strong and healthy future.
What goals are you most excited to pursue over the next few years?
And that's a very good question. I'm very much about having regular goals and purpose, and it's something that I also expect our leaders and our academic community to have as well. And to me, to be able to continue to look forward, we talked a couple of times about innovation and being strategic. For us, it's really about being able to continue to make hard decisions, be able to think about how do we operate differently, how do we operate more efficiently, how do we create opportunities for our students that will help them well into their future. We really are preparing students right now for careers that we don't even know what they are. We're preparing students for careers that don't exist yet. Some will involve artificial intelligence. Some will involve the use of computers or um, different skill sets. There's a lot of talk right now in terms of competencies and the general skills and competencies that our students need to be able to possess. That couples with their strong critical thinking skills, problem solving skills that we've always been so strong in. And it's being able to have a vision for the future that can be able to be proactive, not reactive, and to be able to anticipate the kinds of things that we need to be doing to continuously evolve, while also maintaining that tie and that strength with our rich history. So to me, personal goals and our institutional goals are being willing to think outside of the box, be willing to think about what we can do better and differently, while not again stepping away from our roots and our tradition. We really are rooted in this area, but we really want to prepare our students for a world that again goes well beyond where we are today.
Okay, last question. Okay. What do you feel most optimistic about in reading this future?
That's easy. To me, the most optimistic thing, and I'm reminded every day, are our people. So it's not just our faculty and staff who are phenomenal in what they do. The students that we attract, the students that to go to any type of program, sporting event, theater event, when you hear our students and you see them present and articulate what they're learning, it's phenomenal. The transformation that we're having in our students, but our alumni, our community partners. It's all of that that comes together that really makes for a collaborative team, that's so important for us. And when I look at the collaborative things that we have going on right now, um, involving all areas of our constituents, again, alumni, donors, students, faculty, staff, our public elected officials, all of our constituents, we we really are important to this region. Our constituents are important for us, and I see us all working synergistically to really make a stronger Emory and Henry for the future. It really is the people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining me.
This is a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Rachel Fogg, Director of Marketing and Public Relations here at Emory Henry. Please continue to stay in touch with us. You can connect with alumni engagement by visiting www.emoryhenry.edu/alumni. Thank you so much for tuning in.